Okay, great. Let's get started. So we have about 23 people. So welcome everybody to the HaulHub or e-ticketing training today. Um, Wanted to introduce Alex, who is our main point of contact for HaulHub, or for the system that you guys will be using is EDOT. So he is the main point of contact. So if you have any questions at any time, even after this training, please feel free to reach out to him, or the econ email as always. So today we'll be talking about basics of EDOTs, how to use it on a daily basis. This training is mainly for inspector use because they'll be the ones utilizing this on a day-to-day basis. But it's good to see some engineers here, so that you know what's going on when overseeing the day-to-day inspection interactions. And also, if you need to step in, you'll be able to do so. So basically, today we'll be going over the basic tasks. And additionally, for the engineers, um, we reached out to projects on supplier information over a few months ago. So if you do see that there are suppliers that are not interacting with EDOT or HaulHub, please reach out to Alex, myself, the econ email, because we're currently working with some of these suppliers who are not in HaulHub yet, but a good amount of them are already. So if you see that one of your suppliers are missing, please feel free to reach out to us as we're working with all of the suppliers. So with that, I'll hand it off to Alex to get started with the training.
Appreciate that, Gordon. That's actually perfect because we kind of figured that we could just kind of start with at a high level how it all works. So how we get the data from those suppliers you potentially will have conversations with into our system, and then ultimately, and most importantly, right, into your portal. So what I'll do is I'm going to present my screen and then we can get started. Definitely want this to be a discussion, everybody. So like along the way, if you have any questions, don't hesitate, unmute yourself. You can type something in the chat, whatever's going to work best, okay? So kind of how it all works. So we break it up into three different options for these suppliers. This first option is what we call a direct integration. So we install a HaulHub adapter at their plants. And an example of this being Halava asphalt. So, and then the cool thing is nothing changes for their actual operations crew. So they'll scale out the material as normal. And then once the physical ticket is printed, within a few minutes, that e-ticket is going to hit our system. We also provide training resources for these groups as well. And then we go through a validation period where we just align the physical ticket, all of those e-ticketed or all of those ticketed fields, ensuring they reach the e-ticket. So that should match 1-to-1 for you guys. I share that because going forward, especially as we expand to, additional and new suppliers, if you notice that the e-ticket doesn't match that physical ticket, please let us know. For the most part, that's us just looping back with that supplier to make those updates. And then we also train them on calibration. Calibration is the term that we use just to communicate, the project as it's named or defined in the supplier system aligns with the appropriate project in your portal. And once that calibration is set, that's what's kind of the trigger to route the data from, from their portal to yours. And then of course you guys have access to it, from that point forward. Option two is a case where the company may have internal IT resources, and then we'll share an API key with that team. In that scenario, they do all of the work on making those updates to those ticketed fields. But just like in option one, right, they still have access to my team and those training resources, and then we get them set up with their own portal as well, right? And then the last option is a case where a company may have an existing e-ticket vendor in place. Similar to option two, we share an API key with that e-ticketing vendor. Again, back to option two, or similar to option two, right? It's up to that vendor and their direct customer to make any updates to make sure it aligns with your needs, especially as you guys look to implement your e-ticketing spec. And then, but the same kind of deal, right? Once that's all in place, we're seeing data, right? We get them set up and trained and understand calibration. All three options are of no charge to the suppliers, and the same is the true for the contractors as well. So they too play an important role in this whole process, and their portal is called JobSlip. So that's kind of a bit about how it all works. Any questions on that? Okay. So let's do this. As Cord mentioned, today's focus is going to be the basics, the foundational aspects. So figured we could start on mobile and then we'll go to web. Okay, perfect. Right now we're looking at your EDOT app on mobile. I am on an iPhone, just as a heads up. When you open the app, it's going to land you on your home base or the Today tab. Up top, we have our time range chip filters. By default, today is going to be selected, so you're honed in on that now data. A few that I didn't want to put on your radar. The one to the far right, custom. Anytime like, your project is taking place out of like your normal production window, you can use these toggles to isolate that time range. And then once selected, the information communicated here, so the ticket data you're seeing is just going to be those tickets collected or received in that time window. And then idle is kind of your window into all of the tickets for projects that you have access to, no matter if they've happened today or, like 350, like almost a year ago. There's no cap on this time frame. Again, this is going to be everything, but just kind of to illustrate, I'll start scrolling down and you'll see in the top right, the count of days continues to increase. So if you need to, go back, look at some historical ticket data, you still have the ability to do so. And the cool thing is, right, none of the functionality goes away. So even though we're looking at a project 611 days ago, that's the last time it was ticketed, I can still click in, view those tickets, add a note, all that's still present. But we'll do this. For the purpose of our discussion today, I'll focus on now tons. So once this refreshes, perfect. I'll click into our test project. You can see from the zoomed out view, I'm given some high level information, right? The total ticketed quantity for today, along with a graph just illustrating the highest quantity received, broken out per hour. To view the additional options, you just tap that window, and now we're into our tickets. At the very top, we call these our quick access bubbles. Just, designed to be an easy way for you guys to navigate to the different functions you have available in your portal. We're just going to focus on a few for today. And then these are our ticket cards. So just a high level overview of the information found on the ticket. So on the top left, that ticket number, there's our load count, and that's in regards to this particular product, by the way. The same is true of the daily total. That's for this product. We have our date and timestamp, the name of the trucking company, along with that vehicle ID. There's that ticketed quantity and back to that product description. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight is this pending with the gray clock. So that's just communicating the status of the ticket. We talked a little bit about how we get the information from the supplier's systems to ours. Again, once that physical ticket is printed within a few minutes, you guys should have it in your portal, of course, after it's been calibrated. But the ticket will remain in that pending status until you guys make an update, like marking it as delivered or rejected, as an example. Let's do the first. We'll mark it as delivered together. Just in that bold purple button, I'll click there. It's going to bring up some pay items because this project has pay items associated with it. I'll just kind of show you this really quickly. So I can just tap the corresponding pay item. I can bring forward that quantity in a situation where, it's ticketed in tons and we're paying based on the ton. And then once that's set, I hit confirm delivery. It's going to give me a success notification. I'll hit OK. And then it's automatically going to pull me back to the tickets that remained in that pending status, so I can continue to mark them as delivered. That's the focus. Anyway, with somebody else, Kelvin, I'll let them in. Another option, right, is notes for you guys. You can also add notes to these tickets. We provide a good list of fields to track like your daily kind of typical inputs. So like, plant temps, field temps, temperature of the mat. And this can also be customized per user, by the way. So in the top right, if I click add fields, it's going to bring me to the list of available fields. And then it's just as easy as toggling anything that I don't need to see off. And then once I click save, this section here reflects those selections. And this is all per user. So everybody can have their own experience, in their portal. Any Any questions on that so far? Okay. To view the complete ticket, you just tap into that ticket card, and that will take you to your ticket details section. And here are all of the fields present on the ticket. That weights drop down is going to give you that gross, net, and tear section. For a ready mix ticket, you're also going to see, the batch weight and admixture information in its own separate drop down. And let's do this too. Let me go to more action so I can show you this also. This is kind of like your right click. It'll bring up additional options for you. The next one I wanted to show you is mark rejected. So I'll click there. When you are rejecting a load, it is going to require that you input a reason why you're making that decision. So you can just type it in to communicate to the rest of the team. It's going to give you that, same kind of success notification. And I also wanted you guys to see this too. So we have both an inspector and contractor review sections. First on the inspector review, I'll hit that drop down. As you guys are making these updates, again, marking them delivered or rejected, you're going to get a name, date, and timestamp. And this is optional, but I'll show you guys how to set up your own signature. That will also be inputted into the box. And then any notes that you make are going to be present in that section below. And then the contractor review section, as the name suggests, is tied to the contractor's portal. So I mentioned, right, they too have access to their own e-ticketing portal called JobSlip, and they also have the ability to interact with these e-tickets. So they can also add notes, like you're seeing there, right? They can add plant tips, field tips, and if they do so, you guys can see them in your portal, and the same works the other way around. So any updates that you guys make on this ticket, for those team members on the contractor side who have access to that project, they can also see those updates, right? Just kind of tying you guys together in one shared, but separate ecosystem. The last thing I'll show you guys here is photos. You guys also have the ability to upload photos, both directly to a ticket itself, in addition to its own separate photos module, and I'll show you that in a second, but super easy. So let's say you needed to document something that happened on the project. You can click into a ticket, add a photo by either using an existing photo in your gallery or taking one in the moment with your mobile device. Similar or normal kind of rules apply. For the first time you're doing this, you do have to grant access to the app, to your camera. But after you do that, you're good to go. And then I'll back out here, and then I'll just jump to photos just to show you what that looks like. So here's an example of a photos gallery. We give you some information on the photo as an overlay. So there's the date and the time that it was uploaded. In a case where it's added directly to a ticket, we do also provide some additional information. So I'm just looking for one of those examples here. There we go. So this one, as you can see in the bottom left, there's the ticket number that this photo was added to. And then we have the user name, myself, of course, and there's the name and date, or the date and timestamp. Okay, two more things I'm going to show you here. Again, the focus is the basics. So we've marked a ticket as delivered, we marked one as rejected, and we've added some notes and photos. Let's look at some reporting that we have available for you guys on mobile. So that's found now under its own quick access bubble called Ticket Report. If I click there, there's a few that I wanted to share with you guys. By default, it's going to take you to this project overview. It's going to give you kind of a breakout, right, of the total ticketed quantity, what's been marked delivered versus rejected, or really across those other statuses. And then as I scroll to the right, here's our delivery report. Oh, I wonder why that's not showing. All right, let's do this. Let's go back to tickets really quick. I wanted you to show you guys the difference there. So I'll mark a few as delivered. And let's do one more as rejected. And let's go back to our ticket report. There we go. Okay, so on the left-hand side, that column is for the vehicle ID. So each of these gray clocks represents a load on that vehicle. And then as you can see, right, as you guys are marking these tickets as delivered, they'll transform to a green bubble with a check. And then any load as rejected is red bubble with the exclamation mark. So kind of just, serve as a to-do list or a checklist as you're kind of making your way through the day. And then as I scroll to the right, load time, similar kind of insight, but based on ticketed time. And we've also gone back and added a breakout per round. So if I scrub up to the right, I can also see the additional rounds if they're present. Loaded quantity, so just kind of giving an understanding of the ticketed quantity per round for the project. Round trip, so some cycle time analysis, all based on those ticketed scale times. And something to point out too is if you guys have a question as to what these reports are trying to communicate, we have an overview of kind of or an explanation of each report if you just click into that eye. So that'll give you a breakout of what the report's designed to display for you. Two more things on mobile. Wanted to make sure you guys saw the materials chip filter. So, if you have on a project with several products and you're only focused on a few of them, you can just isolate those two materials that you're responsible for. So, like if you're on the HMA side, but there's also ready mix, you can just, turn off the ready mix. And then that way you're just focusing on those products that, matter most to you guys. And then I'll show you how to ask for help. So we have a way that you can let everybody know if and when the data stops flowing for you, and that's found under report issue. Super easy to get things started. First, click report issue, and then at the very bottom, click that button to report a new issue. Everything with an asterisk within this form is a required input. So what type of issue are you reporting? Let's say no tickets today for my job. The supplier who's providing the material, the plant they're shipping out of. These next two are optional, name of the contractor and also any missing ticket numbers. But if you have them, please share them. It really does help. It goes a long way in resolving these issues a lot faster. The reason being the name of the contractor or customer name is a huge driver for us in how we route the data to the various portals. And then ticket number, we have a way that we can search by ticket number just to verify that it hit our system, just to unpack, what could be where the gap could lie. But once everything is set, you just click submit issue in the bottom right, and then you'll receive that notification letting you know you've officially submitted it. And then these reports hit two spots. They go to an internal Slack channel that you monitor on our side, on the HaulHub side. And then also, most importantly, it hits the suppliers portal. So they have a way that they can chat back and forth with you guys just to ask, any clarifying questions if needed, and also to update the status of the issue as they're working through it. So, initially as received, and then in progress as they're working with you guys, and then of course ultimately resolved. And hopefully that happens as quickly as possible. But yes, you can always revisit this section as well just to see where that lives. So we have that breakout per status, just to make sure you get the data as quickly as possible. I think that's it for mobile. One other thing I'll show you on the way to web is just a few options. So in that hamburger button to the top left, I'll click there, and then I'm going to go to account settings. So this is that section I mentioned where you can draw your signature. Again, that's optional, but that will be viewable on the ticket, which should help the group. And then if I scroll down, here's where you can toggle on or off any of those clipboard reports. So again, another layer of customization as well for you guys on mobile. All right, that's it for mobile on the fundamentals. Any questions on that before we take a look at some of those kind of corresponding or additional features on web? Okay, let's move over there. All right, so now we're on your portal. And for this, I will stay in your actual portal because we do have this test project that I can click into. Um, So just wanted to point out, right, on this project card on your web portal, these are clickable. So if you wanted to jump to the suppliers just to see the full list, same for the materials, you can do so. I'll show you what that looks like. So you get a full breakout. And then also down below, these statuses, we're going to continue to update with the count of the tickets in each status. That's another way to jump directly to your managed ticket screen, just to show you that. Or you can just click into that project card itself, and that'll take you back to the performance overview, which also has them broken out into their own status. So let's click in here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Flex Grid. So within the managed ticket screen, that's where you have access to your Flex Grid. The whole idea here is just to provide you guys an easy way to really, dig into the ticket data. So as a general rule, any of the columns with the six great dots, those are the ones that you can drag and drop to reorder. So if I wanted to, let's say, first filter by, let's do date second. Where is, oh, we go. Plant, we'll take plant, and let's go job name, and then date. You can see it's refreshing itself each time I drag a new filter up there. And then as I drill down, I can start to see those selections, right? So there's my plant name. And the count you're seeing in the parentheses is the number of tickets. I'll drill down, there's the job. And then here's all of the dates that this job has been ticketed out of this plant. And then to view the tickets themselves, it's just as easy as drilling down to receive or you reach one of these line items. And then this represents a ticket. So I'll click there to view the ticket, right? Very similar experience to what we looked at on mobile. Here's our raw ticket data. As I scroll down, here's my weight section. If I added pay items, that's where that would be visible. And there's our inspector and contractor review sections. Same kind of deal, right? It's just as easy as clicking mark delivered. I'll just do it really quickly. And there's that same information, right? I still have access to notes. I can make any updates there. So it really, is a good way to kind of, that interoperability, right? If you started something on mobile, but let's say you didn't have enough time in the moment to add all of your notes, you can take a few things really quickly, what mattered most, and then when you get back to the office, take it up, hand off to your laptop, and then just finish those updates here. Few things to highlight that are exclusive on the web portal side versus mobile is the ability to download these options, and then also really bulk actions. I would say that's the biggest thing, just to share with you guys. So you can see here in the top right, I can download this slip. If I back out, I can also select tickets at a bulk level. So I'll get here. So now we have 5 tickets, ticketed on 321. I'll select there. And notice how my toolbar down below is just kind of lighting up my options. So I can mark these tickets, these 5 tickets delivered at once, rejected, and again, I can download them as well. So a few different file formats available for you guys. But yes, you can either download them or have them emailed to yourself if you needed that hard data from those tickets. This screen can also
Hey,
be,
Alex.
yes, please.
So, I know this group was uh part of the issues we were having with data on the e-ticketing side. Um, somewhere within this group, we were having issues. So, from what I recall, it was part of it was just accepting the tickets. Is that correct? So, I just want to emphasize that, if you're in this meeting, that might have been it. What were the other common things that we thought we were seeing? Maybe
So
I'm
there's
totally off base.
no.
Go
There's a
ahead.
few different things. So the first is what you mentioned, where we have projects that suppliers are delivering or suppliers are entering tickets and the inspectors or engineers are not delivering them. So there's essentially a
Yeah.
lot of pending tickets in there. There are some projects that are not even activated in HaulHub or EDOT. So if you're having those types of issues, especially if your project is not even activated or not created in EDOT, we want to make sure that your project gets added so that you have the ability to send those tickets, deliver them, and track them in this EDOT system. As put in the chat, I mean, this was a mandate as of November 2024. So we want to be sure that all of you folks have the ability to do so and follow that mandate. So if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to Econ, Alex, and so on.
Yeah. So I just recalled from when we were looking at how implementation was going, because again, this was a requirement for all projects November 1st to be using and processing e-tickets within HaulHub. I just remembered that just marking that little click that Alex just did, all the information is there. You just have to say it was delivered. So I know we've got a good amount of inspectors on here. Obviously, if your project's not in there, that's probably a bigger issue. But that front line in the field, if you are still, I know I was at a project a couple weeks ago and somebody handed me paper tickets and I was like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be getting paper tickets. Why aren't you in the system? So we need your folks' help in understanding what the issue might be for your projects to make sure we're all, working towards 100% implementation. And some of your suppliers may not yet be in the system. So if we bring that up at your weekly contractor meeting, please send that information to Alex Cord. I put, the econ support. Hopefully that's the right email, but listen to Cord. Anyway, I just remember if your supplier's in there, it's as simple as just mark delivered. So that may fix a lot of the issues that we're having with the projects. So I just wanted to, if you weren't catching that, if you missed that, in particular for inspectors or field engineers, whoever's in the field actually processing or watching the trucks, that just make sure you're marking that mark deliver button. So any questions on that for the folks that are in the field actually watching trucks come deliver material? Because that might solve 50% of the implementation issues we're having right now.
I have one question that ties to what you're saying, Kai. So I know that like a lot of our material that comes to the sites is built on lump sum pay items, right? So we have base course and all that. But there are some pay items that are, or I should say, there are some items that are paid based on the total materials that do come to the site, like asphalt pavement. So if let's say they haul out the last truck of asphalt and they have a full 10-ton load, but they only install 5 tons of it. Is there a way for us to mark that on the ticket? That would be my question.
It's a great question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll let Alex answer that.
There are a few ways. So for starters, let me back up here. If you guys want to start adding pay items to your projects, we can handle that workflow. So I'll go back to mobile because I'm sure that's going to be like the highest use case. So you can split a pay item. So I can select like to your point, right? I'm going to pay for a portion of it. I'm going to not pay for the remaining. So I can select the first pay item for the portion I am going to pay for, select do not pay as my second pay item. Let me make sure that goes away so you can see both of those fields. There we go. And now I can click in, of these 24 tons, I'm going to pay for 12 of them. I'm not going to pay for the remaining 12.18 and then hit confirm delivery. And then within that breakout for that ticket, I'll go over to that ticket in the delivered status now. Was that load 2? Forgot I'd marked so many delivered. There we go. There's that example. So it's fully hard baked at the ticket level. You can see that breakout and you're not stuck. So let's say, you fat fingered a number or turns out it was a higher quantity that should not have been paid for. I can click that pencil. I can go back and edit that pay code and make those appropriate updates. There are other options, but I'll take a pause there. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, that's helpful. We're just going to really have to talk to our inspectors because the inspectors are the ones that are going to be essentially doing this from their phones, right?
Okay.
So we'll have to kind of go through that with them.
Okay, so that's that's option one, and I think the reason I wanted to start there is because this fully outlines what those actions. It's giving you that visibility on the quantity, that corresponding pay item, in both of those scenarios, right? Another way to do it is by the notes. So I can click more actions. I can take myself back to the edit inspector notes section. And then we have that just kind of, notes section, a general notes section for you to park, like a stream of consciousness, right? If you wanted to use this kind of as a daily log, you can type in those portions that you're wasting. But in this case, right, this is just text. It's not going to affect what's displayed on the other reports, whereas the reconciliation workflow would be. So just kind of a note there.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I guess the other part of it is, if let's say our inspector marks, we're going to pay for 12 tons out of the last 24 or whatever. Maybe there's 30 trucks that came out. Are we like, if we enter that data into that system, is that getting back to that gets back to everyone and distributed? I just don't want there to be like discrepancies where maybe the contractor disagrees or something. Um, I guess we're having those discussions with the contractor, letting them know, hey, we're marking this as 12. We just got to make sure. I just want to make sure that all lines are clear with everyone.
No, that's a good call out. And this is where we hope, right? Again, tying you guys together in some sort of way, that window into each other's actions helps that conversation. Because they too can make a note within their portal that said, okay, understood. You're not going to pay for 12.18 tons because of XY reason. Or if they have a dispute, they can notate it here, and then you guys can see that.
Would we have to assign the pay item on every one of those tickets, or is it like something we could do? Like, could we do that in the office for the inspectors so that they don't have to worry about trying to click through all that in the field?
Yes, that is another option for sure. Like we would just have to add, and I'll go back to the web to illustrate this. I'll stay in the test project in your portal. So on the web portal side, on the contract tab, here is where you can start that workflow. So you can upload those pay items, and then let's see if I have one handy actually. Bear with me 1 second. Let me call a bit of an audible. I do. Okay, hold on 1 second. So I'm going to drag this off. Upload CSV. We have the template parked here just to make it as easy as possible, guys. But essentially all we need is the item code, description, quantity, and the corresponding unit of measure. And then once you've completed that file, you just drag and drop it there, click upload. We're going to break out those items that were added successfully. If we notice any duplicates, we'll highlight those as well as any errors. And then once I hit close, there's the list that I just uploaded. And then my go button to broadcast this information to the rest of the team is this reconcile button. The team won't see those pay items on the mobile side until this button is selected. But once they do so, that's what's populating those pay items like we looked at on mobile. And then, but yes, back to your question. So once that's set, if you go back to the tickets here, oh, I didn't broadcast it, huh? Let me turn it on. So now that's saved. Now on web, if I click into a ticket, mark it as delivered, now I'm also met with that reconciliation workflow. The reason there's nothing under the recent pay items is that, this is my first time doing it. So I can click search items to move myself back to that list. Select it. Two this time too. There we go. I'll use net, confirm delivery, just to kind of illustrate. You can still do it on web as well. And I mentioned bulk actions. The same is true for adding pay items. So we have a few different ways that you can do that. Let me get rid of that here. You know, not I know this is focused on basics, so maybe I won't go down this hole. But if you guys would like to explore adding pay items, I think it would be best if we had like a separate training with those groups responsible for doing so on web. And I can show you, we can dig into the details on how to take advantage of the bulk options to add pay items to tickets.
Yep, Alex, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
But yeah, just wanted to get back to the basics of this training and wanted to reiterate that we want you folks to be utilizing, or you need to be utilizing the system. So the basics of delivering tickets, are there any questions that you folks have on that?
I got a question.
Please, Thomas.
So this is it's an app. This e-ticket is an app we download on our phone or our iPad or both.
Yes, sir. You have access to both a web portal and then also a mobile application, like you mentioned, on your iPhone or iPad.
Okay, so this is external of Headlight or um, the other one. So this is the whole separate thing. It's not hooked up with Headlight.
Yes, sir. It's not hooked
Okay.
up with like.
Okay, now what about a situation? I don't know if it happens much, but somebody is crushing on site without a scale and using it on site. We don't worry about something like that in this case.
Yeah, for the most part, and it is a great call out. For the most part, those operations aren't going to have, well, if there's no scale, then we don't have anything to connect to generate tickets. We have had success with some mobile plants on the ready-mix side that we're able to get integrated with our system. So I just call that out because if that comes up on one of your projects, let me know because we can explore with that supplier to see if that's possible.
Okay, thanks. And then as far as so this works for like aggregates, concrete. What about rebar? We don't, this is not a rebar. Okay, we delivered 20 tons of rebar to the job. This is not a rebar thing.
This is a great question. So our team is super creative. So we do have rebar tickets in our system. It really just comes down to what systems in place for that supplier of that product. But I would say don't be afraid of sharing their contact information with us just to at least have that conversation.
Okay. And then trying to think what else. So basically, it's really on us and the supplier to be kind of hooked up to this thing.
Yeah.
So if one isn't, then it doesn't really work. If the supplier's not on it, we can't do much. If we're not using it, obviously it doesn't get inputted. So it's got to be supplier and HDOT.
Yes, you nailed it.
Okay. Sounds good. Now, like on a paving thing, a lot of it is square yards now.
Okay.
In the past, I think it just gets away from arguing about, oh, we're not paying for this ton or that ton. So a lot of times, like I said, they bring out an extra truck. I guess we just make a note. Okay, it was delivered but not used. So in technical sense, we're not paying for that truck. We're paying for the square yards placed. So this is more just a tracking of what they brought out, not necessarily, yes, we're paying for that load or no, we're not, since it's based on a square yard in place compacted.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're trying to work towards, right? Well, I guess just to first confirming that that's where you guys want to go, to utilize your portal as a way to also track those payment quantities. Because if that pay item was added to your project, you would be able to do both. You could mark the ticket as delivered, assign the appropriate pay items, or based on the square yard, because that unit of measure can also be handled in that workflow. And then you can make the notation as well. So that way, when you were sent your report the following day, an overview of the previous day's work, you would have the information handy on that summary. You would see the breakout of the pay items with the appropriate quantities, in addition to any of those notes that you added at that to that individual ticket.
Okay. So this is an actual app. We can get it in the App Store, this e-ticket app.
Yes, sir. Yeah, let me show you this too. That's a great call out. Let me back up. Here's what you're looking for. That's the icon. So if you go, the App Store, if you search eDOT Inspector, that's the icon you're looking for.
Gotcha. Very good. Yeah, like I said, this is the first time I've ever really been dealing with this, so it's just good information.
Perfect. And then on the website, and I'll put this in the chat as well. The web address is e-dot.com. And then you'll be met with this screen. And then you'll click sign in. And then it's going to take you to this portion here. If it's the first time you guys are logging into this, I would suggest clicking forgot password just to establish your credentials. But let's say you've only used it on mobile before our time today and you have never used it on web, it's the same login information, just a heads up there.
Okay.
Okay, but once you're logged in, that's what takes us back to your portal.
If you have any questions on account information, passwords, usernames, reach out to Econ. We'll be glad to help you.
Just throwing this site in the chat right now for you guys too. Okay. Great questions. Anybody else have any? Oh, please, Joel.
Hey, you saw me on mute. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could show me real quick how to print out. Let's say I wanted to just print out 1 day's worth of tickets for a material into like a report form.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go back to that test project and two different options. For starters, I would suggest everybody turns on this daily delivery report. So by default, it will be selected. We'll just click create report, and then you're just going to check that box. And then what happens is every day at noon by default, and you can change this if you'd like, but you'll be sent an overview of the previous day's tickets. And you know what? Let me do this too. I think I had one that I did a few minutes ago, just to kind of show you an example of what this looks like. I do. Here we go. Let me drag this over, guys. Here is what an example of that delivery report. So you'll have a summary of the tickets broken out per product, the count of loads, here's that quantity, and we're going to break it out per status. So you'll see the breakout, delivered, pending, rejected, and so on. And then if we get to the point where we're utilizing pay items on your projects, you'll also have a summary of that as well. And then as I scroll down, here's each individual ticket. And this is our default presentation, but I can customize this with you guys. So I'll send you a list of all the fields. Well, I'll work with Cord on that to send you guys some the additional fields. And we can move things around. I can add things, take them out, whatever works best for you guys. So that's one way where just automatically sent to your inbox. You'll get the previous day's overview of the tickets. Another option, let's say you had to print them out. If I go into tickets, and then I can just select them, and then we're back to the bulk actions being able to download them. So you can use one of these full formats. PDF is going to be more of that physical ticket kind of representation of the information, and then you can print it out from there. Does that help, Joel?
Yeah, that's helpful. I was kind of trying to do it on my screen while you were going to. I had issues with this at some point when I was trying to print it out. I was coming out with it was printing all the tickets. So this summary is kind of what I was more looking for.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, guys, and I can't stress enough, the feedback is definitely welcomed, because a lot of this, especially the items that we have to customize to really tailor it to your exact agency needs, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to make sure you guys, it helps you guys tremendously. That's the whole point. It should make your lives easier.
And I can definitely vouch for that, as Alex and I have worked through this e-ticketing portal and the information here. They have been very responsive in adding fields or changing fields or giving us filters that weren't there before. So definitely the feedback will help make your job easier.
Thanks for that, Arlene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. This has been helpful.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a perfect segue, by the way, Joel, because I just wanted to make sure that I showed you guys the delivery report. But I think that's because, again, the focus is just the basics, right? The foundational aspects, marking a ticket as delivered or rejected. So updating that status, adding some notes, and then on the website, how to take advantage of the bulk actions, viewing or downloading tickets at once. If we get to that spot, we can dig into how to add pay items at a bulk level, and then getting the information out via the reporting. But I think we should stop there just so we don't overload you guys. Does that sound good?
I got another question.
Yeah, please.
So, so we got our phone or our iPad with the app on it. We got our project. So stuff's coming out to the job.
Okay.
So the stuff from the plant will just pop up on our thing, our device then.
Great question,
So
Tom. Okay.
I don't have to go to the truck driver and say, hey, where's your app? Or, because sometimes, there's trucks everywhere. You don't know who to talk to or what truck is which, but it just says delivered or, on the way. So it's going to be on the app, not necessarily with the driver. It's in the app itself.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, right, you should have it on your mobile device well before that truck arrives on the job site.
Okay.
Because we're talking 3 to 5 minutes after that physical ticket is printed, it's going to be in your app. Again, as long as the supplier has calibrated the project. And the
Right.
reason again I'm harping on that, guys, is just because as a heads up, right, as a troubleshoot. If you're not seeing the data, but it's a supplier that has ticket data flowing, let me know because we probably just have to calibrate the project.
So as of right now, all our major suppliers, asphalt aggregate on Oahu Island are e-ticket compliant and using it, correct?
If you see otherwise, like if you know of a supplier who you're not receiving data, please let us know because we'll work to get them set up too.
So the actual physical collection of tickets is no longer needed.
I'll leave that to Kai, Cord, and Arlene to answer. I would think in the short term it would be both, but correct me if I'm wrong there, guys.
So yeah, that it's imperative to make sure that the suppliers are in the system, and that's why we don't know every, obviously Grace is in there. I don't know. We can send you the list, and I think it was asked for, but there may be suppliers that aren't in there that we're not aware of because we just don't know. And we are aware of a couple that are still onboarding. So I think we can share that information, Cord and Arlene.
Yes.
And you
Yes,
guys pick it up. Yeah.
Yes, we will share that information. And just to be transparent, there are a couple of suppliers, as Kai said, that we're still onboarding. But as I said before, the last time we checked in for suppliers was over a few months ago on your project. So I know there's been new projects that have come up. There's been projects that may have new suppliers. So if you do see a supplier that is not sending tickets, please reach out to us so we can work with Alex to get them integrated.
So
So Tom,
they're
I think
not
your
on
question was, so if in fact they're still sending you electronic ticket, if you're getting both, if they do electronic tickets, we're in this phase because we don't have all suppliers on yet. We're in a phase where we're still collecting paper tickets, but you can get them all at the end of the day because we want to make sure that as the suppliers come on board, that the information that's on the paper tickets is also on the electronic tickets. But soon, once everybody gets on board and we've got all that information verified, you won't need to collect paper tickets unless it's a situation where there's some sort of I don't know, a connection that you can't, you can't get a connection, then you'll want to collect paper tickets for a short time until the connection, you can get back online. But right now we're still collecting paper tickets to do a verification of what's in the portal to make sure that all that information matches. But you don't have to get them from every truck. You can ask the supervisor, the contractors to collect all that for you at the end of the day. I can't think of what that's called. It's not supervisor, but you know who I mean. So he can just hand them to you all at the end of the day, the paper ones, so you don't have to interact with the truck drivers every time.
So is it a requirement for payment to be on e-ticket? So if it's not on e-ticket, we don't pay for it, or are we just working through that still?
We're still working through that, I think.
Okay.
6 months later.
Yes. Yes. I hear you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank
anything
you.
else? Anything else on your list, man? For questions?
I have a question.
Please, yes.
I'm working with Grace Pacific on a maintenance contract, and they were having issues with some of their tickets not showing up. They submitted a ticket with IT, but is there any way for anyone on our side, say the inspector or the engineer, which would be me,
Okay.
to input it from the supplier side? Because we have the physical ticket.
That's a good call. Okay, so in that scenario, I would suggest, let me go back to mobile, utilizing that missing ticket report an issue section. That's is very helpful for everyone across the board.
Okay.
Because that way we can work with Grace Pacific to identify the gap. Why did we not receive the particular ticket number that you shared that you have a physical ticket for? Like, where's the corresponding e-ticket? And then I can work with them and say, like, is it just a calibration issue, guys? Like, did you just not calibrate the project? Or is something going on with one of your plants that it's no longer sending us the necessary data?
I didn't want to submit a issue on my side because they already did, and I don't want to double up. But the project has been going on for a while, and we've been receiving tickets through HaulHub. It was just a couple days this week that, for whatever reason, they haven't showed up.
Yeah, and you guys can always email directly as well. Like, if you're not sure if it's a good use case for the report an issue feature, you can email me with a question. And the ticket numbers again always help, and we can just work through it together.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, man. What else, guys? Any other questions kind of popped up as we've kind of been exploring the different abilities in your portal, or just kind of as a general overview of the process itself? Going once. I thought I heard somebody. Okay, I guess I'll pass it back to you, Cord. Super appreciate the time. And this doesn't have to be the last time we do this, by the way, guys, right? Especially as you guys start to get some real hands-on experience in interacting with the tickets. Let us know. We can put another one of these together and dig deeper into the additional functionality if that's where we need to go. Okay. But thank you guys, everybody, for the fantastic questions.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining. Like I said before, this recording will be sent out to you guys after this meeting with the list of suppliers. And just wanted to remind everybody, please reach out if you have any questions, whether it's on training, whether it's suppliers needing to be added, project supplier contacts, all of that. Please feel free to reach out to us. I've already gotten a few emails in the econ email inbox, so that's great.
Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.